If you're eating more protein than ever, but your legs still feel weak on the stairs, or you've noticed your grip strength failing when you try to open a simple jar of pickles, stay with me. Your body isn't just getting old, it's actually suffering from a biological communication breakdown. I want to make you a promise right now. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the healthy protein you're eating is being ignored by your muscles, and I'm going to give you a specific 4-step protocol using common grocery store items to fix that signal. We're going to stop the muscle theft that happens after 60 and show you how to unlock your strength again. I'm Dr. Robert Harrison. I've spent over 30 years in geriatric medicine, and I've seen thousands of patients who are doing everything right. They walk, they eat their chicken and eggs, they take their vitamins, and yet they keep getting frailer. In my practice, we don't just look at what you're eating, we look at whether your cells are actually receiving the message. What most people, and even many doctors, miss is a condition called anabolic resistance. It's a fancy way of saying your muscle cells have changed the locks, and the protein is stuck standing outside on the porch. But before we dive into the science of how to pick those locks, let's do a quick check-in. This helps me understand who I'm talking to today. In the comments below, tell me your age and a yes or no to this. Have you noticed that you have to push off the armrests of a chair just to stand up? Go ahead and type that in. I read those comments to see how these issues are affecting your daily independence. Now, let's talk about Calvin. Calvin is a 72-year-old retired high school principal from Naperville, Illinois. He's a sharp guy, an engineer by hobby, and he keeps a meticulous food log. When he came to see me, he was frustrated. He told me, "Doc, I'm eating 30 grams of protein at every meal. I'm lifting those little silver dumbbells 3 times a week. But last month, I tripped on a curb because my lead leg just didn't lift high enough. I feel like I'm shrinking." Calvin was experiencing the classic Leucine Threshold problem. You see, when you're 20 years old, your body is like a high-speed internet connection. You eat a little protein, and the signal to build muscle is instant. But as we cross 60, 65, and 70, that connection becomes dial-up. You need a much stronger signal, specifically from an amino acid called leucine, just to get the muscle-building machinery to turn on. For someone like Calvin, eating some protein isn't enough. He needed to hit a specific threshold of about 3 to 4 grams of leucine in a single sitting to trigger the signal. But there was a second problem. Even when he hit that threshold, his body was in a state of lockdown due to low-grade silent inflammation. His protein was knocking on the door, but the door was rusted shut. Think of your muscle cells like a construction site. Protein is the lumber. But if the road to the site is blocked by fallen trees, that's inflammation, and the foreman is asleep, that's your metabolism slowing down. It doesn't matter how many truckloads of lumber you send. The house never gets built. The lumber just sits there and eventually rots or gets hauled away. In your body, that unused protein doesn't become muscle. It just gets filtered out by your kidneys or stored as fat. That brings us to the first biological key to clearing those roads, and it starts 30 minutes before you even take a bite of protein. We need to talk about the digestion gap. Most seniors produce significantly less stomach acid than they did in their 40s. This means that even if you eat a high-quality steak or a piece of salmon, your body is struggling to break those complex proteins down into the individual amino acids like leucine that actually do the work. This is where our first grocery store hero comes in, the kiwi. I know it sounds simple, maybe even too simple, but there is a specific enzyme in green kiwi fruit called actinidin. Clinical data shows that actinidin helps your stomach break down proteins, especially those from dairy and meat, much more efficiently. In my practice, I started having patients like Calvin eat 2 kiwis about 30 minutes before their largest protein meal of the day. What we're doing is pre-treating the digestive tract. We're sending in the specialized demolition crew to break down the lumber so it's ready to be moved onto the construction site the moment it arrives. But clearing the digestive tract is only the first step. Next, we have to clear the inflammatory fog that is actually blunting your body's internal sensors. Let me show you what that looks like in the next stage of the protocol, because this is where most people, even the healthiest eaters, are leaving 50% of their strength on the table. Once your digestion is primed and your body is actually breaking down the protein, you run straight into the second roadblock. And this is the one that frustrates my patients the most. Think about your muscle cells as having a master switch. In medicine, we call this switch mTOR, or ultrasound. When you eat protein, that mTOR switch is supposed to flip on, telling your body to build and repair muscle. But as we get older, a silent problem called chronic low-grade inflammation starts to surround your cells. It's like a thick fog. The protein arrives, but the mTOR switch can't detect it through the fog, so it stays turned off. You eat the chicken breast, but your muscles never get the message. This brings us to the second key, the pathway clearers. Most people believe that to build muscle, you just need meat or eggs. But what research shows us is that to clear that inflammatory fog, you need specific antioxidants called anthocyanins. These are the compounds that give dark berries and tart cherries their rich color. They are not a magic cure for muscle loss, but clinical data suggests they act as biological primers. By reducing the inflammatory markers in your blood, they clear the pathway so your protein can finally reach the switch. Let me tell you about Evelyn. She's a 67-year-old grandmother from Savannah, Georgia. Evelyn came to me in tears because she was losing her grip strength. She loved cooking for her family, but she had reached the point where she had to ask her neighbor to come over and open jars of pasta sauce for her. She was eating plenty of Greek yogurt and fish, but her hands and forearms were just getting weaker. I told Evelyn we needed to clear the fog. We didn't increase her protein. Instead, we added a half cup of wild blueberries or a handful of tart cherries to her daily routine, right alongside her meals. We were using the fruit to lower her systemic inflammation, so the protein she was already eating could finally do its job. If understanding the biology of aging helps you make better choices, instead of just guessing, hit that save button right now so you can find this exact protocol later when you're at the grocery store. Now, once the fog is cleared, we have to look at the actual door to the muscle cell. This is key number 3, the receptor optimizer. For the last 40 years, we were told that to stay healthy as we age, we should eat a low-fat diet. But here is what nobody tells you about your muscle cells. Every single cell in your body is surrounded by a membrane made of fat. When you are younger, that membrane is fluid and flexible, which allows nutrients and signals to pass through easily. But as we age, and especially if we avoid healthy fats, those cell membranes become stiff and rigid. The locks get jammed. To keep those membranes fluid and responsive to protein, you need healthy monounsaturated fats. I'm talking about a quarter of an avocado or a tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil. But there is a second, even more critical reason we need these healthy fats. Your muscles rely heavily on vitamin D to maintain their strength and prevent you from falling. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. That means if you take a vitamin D supplement with a dry piece of toast and black coffee, your body absorbs almost none of it. It just passes right through you. By pairing your meals with avocado or olive oil, you are providing the vehicle that carries that crucial vitamin D straight into your system. In fact, before you spend another dime on supplements, I want you to write this down. At your next appointment, ask your doctor this exact question. Can we check my vitamin D levels, and are any of my current medications interfering with my fat-soluble vitamin absorption? That one question can uncover the hidden reason why your legs feel heavy or your balance feels off. But here is where I need to be completely honest with you. You can eat the kiwi to digest the protein. You can eat the berries to clear the inflammation. You can eat the healthy fats to open the cell doors, but none of it will rebuild your strength if you miss the final key. Key number 4 is the engine. I once cared for a man I'll call Douglas. Douglas is a 79-year-old widower living in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was incredibly diligent about his health. He walked 2 miles every single morning. But despite all that walking, Douglas told me he felt increasingly unsteady on his feet, especially when stepping off a curb or walking on uneven grass. Douglas made the most common mistake I see in senior health. He confused cardiovascular exercise with resistance training. Walking is fantastic for your heart, your lungs, and your brain. But walking does almost nothing to build new muscle tissue. Your body is incredibly efficient. It will not spend the energy to build new muscle unless you give it a reason to do so. If you don't challenge the muscle, the nutrition you eat has no target. It's like pouring premium gasoline into a car that is sitting in the garage with the engine turned off. You do not need to go to a noisy gym or lift heavy weights to turn the engine on. For Douglas, the fix was the 10-minute stimulus rule. We had him buy a simple $5 elastic resistance band. 3 days a week, for just 10 minutes, he did seated band rows and chair squats. That's it. That minimal, safe resistance was enough to create a micro-stimulus in his muscle fibers. It turned the engine on. Once that engine is running, the muscles act like a sponge. They become highly sensitized, ready to soak up the leucine-rich protein, the inflammation-clearing berries, and the membrane-softening healthy fats. And that brings us to the part that matters most. Knowing the science is one thing, but how do you actually put this on a plate? Let me show you exactly how to time this nutritional protocol so you can start regaining your strength tomorrow morning. Let's put these 4 keys together into what I call the muscle prime sequence. This is the exact daily routine I give my patients, and you can write this down right now. You don't need expensive artificial powders, and you don't need a complicated restriction diet. You just need to sequence your biology correctly. Step 1 is the spark. Sometime in the morning or early afternoon, you must turn the engine on. Give your muscles a 10-minute micro-stimulus. Use a chair band, do some gentle wall pushes, or simply practice standing up from a chair repeatedly with control. You are sending a direct mechanical signal to your brain that says, we still need these muscles to survive. Step 2 happens about 30 minutes before your main, protein-heavy meal of the day. This is when you eat your 2 green kiwis. Let the actinidin enzyme go to work, waking up your stomach acid and prepping your digestive tract so the protein you are about to eat won't just pass through you or get filtered out as waste. Step 3 is the lumber. You sit down to your meal and you need to hit that crucial leucine threshold. Remember, a 20-year-old body needs less, but after 65, you need about 3 to 4 grams of leucine in one sitting just to flip the mTOR switch. In real-world terms, that means eating roughly 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein at once. That looks like a generous chicken breast, a large fillet of salmon, or a hearty bowl of Greek yogurt. Step 4 is clearing the roadblocks. On that exact same plate, you must include your pathway clearers and your receptor optimizers. You add a half cup of wild blueberries or tart cherries to lower the inflammatory fog around the cell. And you make sure there is healthy fat, like a quarter of an avocado or a tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil drizzled over the food to soften those rigid cell membranes and carry fat-soluble vitamin D deep into the tissue. This isn't just eating healthy. It's a targeted biological strategy. Let's go back to Calvin, the 72-year-old retired principal from Illinois who was tripping on curbs. We didn't arbitrarily double his protein. He was already eating plenty. We just organized his routine to defeat his anabolic resistance. 6 weeks after he started this protocol, Calvin walked into my clinic, bypassed the stiff waiting room chairs, and sat directly in the low, deep armchair in my consultation room. That is the chair my senior patients usually avoid because it's notoriously hard to get out of. When our appointment was over, he stood up. He didn't rock back and forth to gain momentum. He didn't brace his hands on the armrests. He just stood up using pure, regained, functional leg strength. And Evelyn, the grandmother from Georgia, 2 months into clearing her inflammatory fog and absorbing her nutrients properly, she sent my staff a photo of a completely empty jar of marinara sauce. She had opened it herself, cooked a massive dinner for her family, and felt absolute stability in her forearms. She didn't have to ask her neighbor for help anymore. That is why I do this. In my practice, I don't care about building muscle so you can look a certain way in a mirror. I care about building muscle because muscle is your body's armor. It is the literal currency of your independence. Your leg strength is the difference between living in your own home and having to move into an assisted care facility. Your grip strength is the difference between catching yourself on a banister when you stumble and spending the next month in a hospital with a fractured hip. Your body is not broken just because you are older. Your cells desperately want to repair themselves. They want to respond to the food you eat. You just have to stop guessing and start giving them the exact biological keys they need to unlock the door. Now, it's time for you to take control. I want you to go down to the comments right now and choose one of these 3 paths. If you are going to the grocery store today and starting this 4-step plan tomorrow morning, type the word protocol in the comments. If you realize today that your cell membranes might be stiff and your medications might be blocking your absorption, type the word doctor so I know you're making that appointment to check your vitamin D levels. And if you understand the nutrition, but you don't know how to safely turn on the engine without hurting your joints, type the word strength in the comments. That will tell me to make my next video exactly about the 3 safest resistance exercises you can do right from your living room. Before you close this video, hit the share button and send this directly to a friend, a spouse, or a sibling who is eating healthy but still losing their strength. They need to know this isn't their fault and the fix is waiting for them in the produce aisle. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into senior longevity. I'm Dr. Robert Harrison. Keep moving, keep unlocking those cells, and I'll see you in the next video.